Okay, everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to do an overview of the written assignments. So remember, there's two assignments. There's a 5% kind of mini assignment, and then the 25% term paper due at the end of term. So what are we going to talk about? Well, what we're going to talk about is pretty much the distrust in science, talking about the differences between scientific articles and the news articles that report on them. How a lot of times news articles seem to twist the truth or only kind of cherry pick pieces of information out of scientific articles that they think the reader would find most exciting or most eye catching. You know, kind of like you read articles that are like, ooh, charred food causes cancer. Like, wow, that sounds big. And then you read the scientific article it's on, and they didn't actually say that. It's like, huh, well, what's happening? And this kind of cherry picking of facts by news journalism can actually lead to distrust in science because the real findings, the real truth, isn't actually being reported on. It's being sensationalized. And so, what this assignment is meant to do is kind of help show you guys how you can read a news article about science and kind of understand, okay, well, what's something I can actually take away from this? And how can I then take a scientific article and translate that information into something that the general public would be able to understand? So you're going to be looking at kind of both sides of this issue. Now, this is a really cool assignment that I actually took from the previous instructor of this course, Matt Churchwood. I just thought it was such a great example of something that we use every day, especially during COVID times. There's the whole like anti-vaxxer thing of like, ooh, is it safe? Is it that? What is COVID? Like, there's so many research things now about health and science that what's true, what's not, what's being twisted by the news media. So I again think this is just a great thing. Now, again, that major problem in science is the challenge of accurately disseminating the information to the public at large regarding the nature and value of our research. So, a lot of times, the research we do, we tell people what we do, and they're like, well, but why? What's the value of that? For instance, I study songbird vocalizations. People are like, well, why? What? Why do we care? Why does that get funded? And so it can be really difficult sometimes to communicate the value of your research. And that's why sometimes the news only picks these kind of sensationalized research when there's so much research out there that's not getting news coverage, but still very important. So being able to look at that and then read a research article and pick out, what are the pieces of information that are important, that show the value of the research. There's also a large failure in science in that communication from science to general population. That's something that scientists struggle with a lot of time. And there's these accusations that scientists will perform research with no obvious value to society. Okay, so that's, we get this ivory tower analogy. Scientists are just up in their ivory tower doing experiments for the sake of experiments. So kind of like my, bird research. Why do you do it? You guys are probably wondering that right now. Well, I can actually tell you that songbirds, the birds I study, they are one of the few species, along with humans, that have vocal learning. So they learn their songs and calls from a tutor or a parent, just like how human babies learn to talk. We mimic, and then we learn from others. Very few animals actually do that. So by studying how this vocal learning occurs in birds, and by being able to manipulate, different parts of the brain, turn them on, turn them off, use different chemicals in the brain during this critical time, we can then study, well, how does vocal learning occur? What is that critical period? What chemicals are involved? Can we fix it? Can we do this? What does this have an effect on? We can do studies that we can't do with humans due to, ethics and stuff. So there actually is a reason behind our studies. We also use our studies to look at, animal behavior and the effects of humans on how well these animals are able to communicate and live and breed, and that, has an environmental effect. So there's actually two different reasons why we do our studies. But all people hear is I study birds, and they're like, oh, do you have a tiny couch for your tiny bird? Because we're psychologists, right? So, again, we need to do better as scientists in communicating with the general public what we're doing and why they should care. Now, scientists then, we often will blame the media for failing to accurately report the important findings. And again, they tend to sensationalize findings. So they take one small thing where we say, like, well, this could suggest in the future, and they're like, well, they found this. And it's like, well, that's not what I said, right? So scientists will often blame the media for failing to accurately report their important findings. But maybe that's because scientists aren't doing a great job of communicating themselves. But also the media, if you're reporting on science, maybe you should understand science. So it's kind of a two-way street. So what this paper assignment is going to do, you're pretty much going to try to do better than the news. So you're going to find a recent news article that discusses a topic related to the class. So the class is going to talk about neuropsychopharmacology. Okay, so neuro, brain, psycho, behavior, pharmacology. So you can't find one about COVID. Okay? How does COVID affect muscle mass? That doesn't have to do with this. Okay? No. But how a drug changes behavior, yes. How a drug changes brain chemistry, yes. Okay? So you're going to find a news article from the past 5 years. So mainstream media, it can be CBC, BBC, Fox News. Last year I had someone find a podcast, okay? A podcast discussing some science. Great. It can be like a news article. Those are the easiest, to be honest. A written news article, going to be your easiest. But it could also be a news report, so like a video, okay? But again, the written's the easiest. Then you're going to find the original research paper that news story is covering. Again, in the written one, it's very easy because they will cite it. They will see in an article by this person. And then in your final term paper, you are going to compare and contrast the scope and impact of the work. So you're going to do an overview of the state of the research in the current field and where possible, provide examples of supporting research. So you are going to have to do outside research. You're going to have to find other articles that relate to this original research paper and the news story. Okay, but you're going to have two main resources, your research paper and the news story. And then you're going to have supporting research to support what is the research in the field in general right now, okay? And you're going to pretty much talk about how well did the news story do reporting the original paper. How well did the original paper do communicating its results? Compare and contrast. So some news stories may do a good job. That's okay. Some of them may do a bad job. That's also okay. Okay? But your job is to tell me, compare and contrast. So, an example here, obviously you cannot use this example, it's also old. Okay, so do MAOAs and CDH13 human warrior genes make violent criminals? What should society do? Okay, so it's saying, oh, there's these things and there's violent, the human warrior gene. Oh, they love talking about that. And so this is a news article. Okay, um, it it reports on a scientific article. Here's some more examples. Again, obviously you cannot use these ones, but these are the types of things. So abnormal behavior, that's the psycho, associated with point gene mutation and structural gene for monoamine oxidase A. Okay, monoamine oxidase A. We will definitely be talking about that in relation to our drugs. So this would be neuropsychopharmacology is related here. Okay, so these are scientific articles that correlate to this news article. See that? Wow. Okay, so you would then talk about how well did the news article do reporting this scientific article. Here's, different papers, so, do they agree in the field and that kind of thing. Here's some other popular recent topics. The MMR vaccine controversy in autism, clinical use as ketamine for long-lasting antidepressants, MDMA use in psychotherapy for PTSD. These are very popular topics. There's also been, last year, a lot of students found a couple articles talking about magic mushrooms and their use for psychotherapy, and, as antidepressants or anti-anxiety things. So there are a lot of papers out there. There's a lot of news articles, but it is going to take some time to search for them. Okay? It's harder than you think to find the news articles, especially during COVID, because a lot of news sites, their websites will have, search for articles related to health, right? Well, before COVID, it was pretty easy. You'd get a lot of these types of articles, but because of COVID, then it's a lot harder because obviously they all are talking about COVID. So it's going to take a bit of time. Maybe this first week is a great time for you to just start looking. You don't have to pick one, but just start looking. Start thinking about it. Also, if you have a favorite drug you want to look up or a favorite neurotransmitter, search for that. I don't know. So, again, remember this is 2 assignments. Your first assignment 1, is going to be due, I believe I said in February, early February. It's worth 5% of your grade. It's going to be about 500 words or 1 page. I know 500 words, this 1 page would be single spaced. Okay? 500 words, single spaced, 1 page. If it's double spaced, it's going to be 2 pages. So, I want it on 1 page. You can do it in 250 words. There is no word limit, there's a page limit. I'll give you more information about the rubric for the lay summary later. But what you're going to do is you're going to read that primary research study. So not the news article, just the research study. Okay? And I want you to give me a brief summary in language suitable for the general public. I like to talk about this in terms of an educated non-expert. So someone that's probably finished high school or is maybe gone to university. Okay? So they're educated, but they're not an expert in this field. I like to explain it as I'm explaining it to my mom or dad or my grandma. Okay, my mom's an English major, doesn't really understand what I do, but I can explain what I do in simple language that she can understand. Okay, so I'm not going to use the technical jargon. I'm going to use, it's not dumbing it down, but it's making it accessible to others. Okay, so like you're explaining it to your mom in a different field, or your grandma, or something like that, okay? Or maybe you have a cousin in high school, okay? Make it so that they can understand what the scientific article is about. This gives you experience in communicating scientific research results to a broad audience. This is basically what the news articles are trying to do, or should be trying to do. Okay, so that's what this is about. This is, okay, how well can you communicate science to a non-science person? Okay, not someone that's dumb, just a non-science person. Okay. Assignment 2 is that big term paper, 7 to 10 pages. Personally, I love 7 pages because then it doesn't take as long to grade. But you have up till 10 pages. If you go 11 pages, knock off points. Okay? No more than 10 pages. Your lovely TA, there's like 70 of you she has to grade, and she's only gonna get like a week or two. So, no. What you're gonna do here is this is where you're gonna compare and contrast the research paper and that news article. Okay? So, you're going to do an overview of the state of the research in the current field. So if you're talking about MAOIs, you're going to do an overview of MAOIs in the field. And then you're also going to compare and contrast how well the news article and the research article address that. And where possible, you're going to provide examples of other research in the field. And then you're going to talk about maybe where can we go in the future based on these things. The important thing here is critical analysis, okay? I want you to do critical thinking here and show me your writing skills, okay? Multiple skills are going on here. So both the primary research study and the resulting coverage, I want you to critically analyze, okay? Maybe the research paper wasn't well written. Maybe it wasn't a very good study. Analyze that. Tell me that. Okay? Just because it's a research article doesn't mean it's good. Just because it's a news article doesn't mean it's bad. Now, they both can be good. They both can be bad. It can be one or the other. It doesn't matter. But I need you to tell me that. Okay? And there's always something that can be improved on. This is the final paper structure. Oh, that moved. So, again, this is the term paper, the 25% paper, okay? You're going to have an abstract. There's going to be an intro. You're then going to give me the research summary and then discuss. The discussion is where you're going to do that compare and contrast. So these first two areas, you're really focusing on the field of study of the original research paper. The discussion is where you're going to bring in that news article. And then you're going to have a summary conclusion. It's going to be pretty short. Now, references. You're going to have 10 to 20 original references. When I say original references, I mean not the news article and not the research article the news was written on. Okay? So, if you have 10 original references, that means you're going to have 12 total references. Right? You're going to have 10 original plus your news article plus the original research article. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, always let me know. I want you to do APA citation. I just like APA citation the best. I think it's great. Please do APA citations. Okay? I also want you to make an appendix where you're just going to attach the original news article. So when you find a news article, I suggest you download it, do like a print, but then save as PDF or something. Just because sometimes news articles can get removed from their website or get changed or something. So I want you to take a screenshot or something of the news article when you find it and then give it to me. Because one, I want to read it. It's interesting. And two, I want to be able to look at it and it is a resource. And then any relevant figures. If you think you need to make a figure, I guess you could do that. I don't think you need to make a figure, but if you want to, go for it. Or if there's a figure you really like in one of the references and you want to include it in your paper, you're going to put it in the appendix. Again, I'll have a rubric that I will give to you. But pretty much how the paper works is you're going to tell me what you're about to say in the abstract and the intro, and then in your research and discussion, you're going to say that. And then in the summary, you're going to tell me what you just told me. It's going to be really fun. Again, 7 to 10 pages. And I will be giving more information later. Obviously, brevity and clarity are key to good scientific writing. I don't need lots of fanciful, very flowery language. I want to know what happened, and that is it. Okay? The paper should be no more than 7 to 10 pages double spaced. So that lay summary can be single spaced, but your final paper needs to be double spaced. I am going to ask you to include a copy of your news article and the original research article with that lay summary. Again, this lay summary is one, to make you understand how difficult it can be sometimes to summarize research to others, but also it's just for me to make sure that you have picked appropriate topics, appropriate articles for the final paper. So you won't get points off in the lay summary for inappropriate articles. So, like, if it's just an article not related to class, you don't get points off. But you will get points off for that in the final paper. So, by doing the lay summary, it makes sure that you don't get points off later. So fun. You can submit your papers on eClass in an assignment thingy in either a PDF or doc format. I do prefer PDFs. They're just easier to grade. But if you can't do PDF, go ahead and do a doc or docx format instead. Okay, so that is it for the written assignment. Again, there will be documents later talking about it. We can talk about it in person, in emails, in class later. But this should be an introduction, at least for you to start thinking about what do you want your news article and research article to be about. So please email me any questions. This is it for the first day of class. On Friday the 7th, we will start actual material in the class.